Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're looking at two cameras, and the two cameras we're looking at is the Panasonic GH6 or the Panasonic Lumix GH6, which we have here fitted with the Panasonic 12 to 35 f2.8 lens. And we're comparing that against the Sony A6700, which is a fairly new camera, well, last couple of months. And I've got fitted to it the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8 lens. And the only reason I'm comparing these two cameras is because they are priced very similarly. And I think that if you're looking at getting into certainly video production, you may be looking at the GH6 because of the pedigree of the GH5 and the GH4 previous to the GH6. And it's a phenomenal camera. But you also might want to look at the APS-C camera, the Sony A6700. Certainly if you're new to this sort of thing and you're not embedded in either of the systems, then you might want to look at either or. Obviously, if you're embedded into the Sony E-mount system, it would make sense to look at the A6700. Likewise, if you've got a large amount of lenses for the Micro Four Thirds system, be it even Olympus lenses, you may want to look at the GH6. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the major differences between these two cameras and why you might want to choose one over the other. But we'll first look at the autofocus on the two cameras. We'll get that out of the way first of all, shall we? Because I know everyone's going to say, well, the autofocus on the Panasonic is crap, the Sony A6700 is brilliant. The Panasonic uses depth and defocus, contrast detection, autofocus, and it's great for stills. So if you're more of a stills shooter than you are a video shooter, then the Panasonic GH6 will be absolutely fine. You get great stills from that. It's got your animal detector, eye detect, it's got human detect on it. So it has got all those features on the Panasonic GH6, but it is contrast detect autofocus. It isn't phase detect autofocus. And you can access those by simply just pushing in the button on the top here, and you can go through your different autofocus points by pushing that button in, very similar to how the A6700 works. But with the A6700, this has phase detect autofocus points on the 6700. So you've got your human detect, your animal eye detect, but also this one, you can send it to planes, insects, and various other phase detect points. It has actually got inside this camera an AI chip, which helps with the autofocus. And it is touchscreen, so you can actually touch on which you want it to choose. At the moment that's on human detect. Click on that, that's now gone to planes and trains. Click it again, that's now got animal eye detect, so on and so forth. So this is more feature rich as far as autofocus features. The GH6 is, as I say, contrast detect, fine for stills, not so good for video because it does hunt. Although I find it's pretty decent for video, but I know if you are doing an interview situation and you're using like an f1.8 or an f1.4 lens because you want to throw the background right out of focus, and if you've got some specular highlights in the background, maybe you've got a little light glowing, that may well flicker, where it won't on the Sony A6700. So but if you're an operator behind the camera, then the GH6 is going to be perfect. No problem whatsoever. It's if you're reliant on the autofocus, then possibly the A6700 will be your better choice. The GH6 has a 25 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor in here, and the Sony is a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. So the pixel count is virtually the same between the two cameras. You're not really going to notice any difference in resolution if you're printing large prints. So I wouldn't choose the Sony because it's got the 26 megapixel sensor. I would choose either or. They're both resolution wise going to be very similar. Both cameras have in-body image stabilization, but the Panasonic is just that bit better than what the Sony is. Both cameras have the 3-inch articulating screen, but I love the Panasonic one. If I had to choose of any camera that I've ever used, the Panasonic wins hands down with the implementation of how they've set up the screen, and I'll show you. So on the Panasonic, you've got your tilty-wilty screen just the same as you have on the Sony, but it can tilt upwards like so. And that's great for stills photographers, that you can actually just tilt it upwards and see it better at that angle, can't you? So you can tilt it upwards like that, and then you can still pull it out like that, which is what how the Sony works. And I think that's a great implementation of a 3-inch articulating screen. Really, really do like that massively. That is fantastic. The Sony one is your traditional standard 3-inch articulating screen. It literally does just come out like that, which is fine. But I love taking photographs, I think, as you all know, and I love the discreetness of having a screen that just flips up behind the camera body, and also the eye contact. It's right behind the camera body. You're not it's not away from the camera body. This is great for video, of course, so when you're doing your vlogging you can actually see yourself. I think that is great for vloggers, but for stills I prefer the type of screen that's on the Panasonic. But of course the Panasonic, you've got the best of both worlds, because it tilts upwards like so, as well as tilting outwards. So yeah, Panasonic wins as far as screens are concerned. Viewfinders, the Panasonic wins hands down as well. The viewfinder on the Sony is a 2.3 million dot viewfinder. The Panasonic's a 3.6 or 3.8 million dot viewfinder. I'll leave in the video exactly what it is, but it's a really high magnification, really bright viewfinder. I love using the Panasonic viewfinder. It's absolutely gorgeous. It really is a lovely viewfinder on the Panasonic GH6. The Sony A6700 gets the job done, but it's a rangefinder style viewfinder, so it's over to one side, and there's a lot of people that don't like that style. Also, it's a really small viewfinder, and the magnification isn't anywhere near as good as the Panasonic. So for eye relief, if you're taking a lot of photographs or doing a lot of video and you're using the viewfinder a lot, I would definitely say, well, it is obvious, the Panasonic is far superior to the Sony. Both cameras shoot 4K video, they both do Ultra HD, they both do slow motion, they've both got video codecs in, they're both 10-bit 422 video recorders. So as far as codecs and specs of video is concerned, they're both very similar. The one aspect though that the Panasonic really does score over the Sony, it's got open gate, or some people would call that anamorphic mode. So it actually records the whole sensor as opposed to cropping in for either 16:9. So if you want to do content for both, TikTok, which is shot vertically, or you want to do, content for YouTube, you can shoot it once in open gate, where the Sony hasn't got open gate and it hasn't got anamorphic mode. So if those sort of features are, you need or for you, then the Panasonic wins hands down. As far as traditional video features though, the Sony is fantastic. As I say, it is now internal 10-bit 422 codecs, as I said earlier, same as on the Panasonic. The Panasonic GH6 has 2 card slots. It's got your CF Express card slot as a main card slot, and an SD card slot for redundancy, for backup. So if you are recording stuff like weddings, or you're recording events where obviously you don't want to miss the shot, or you don't want to miss the photograph, the GH6 is your ideal companion because of the 2 card slots. The Sony A6700 only has the 1 card slot, unfortunately. To me, not an issue at all, because I don't do weddings, I don't do corporate events or anything like that. So the 1 card slot on the Sony A6700, SD card slot, use a V60 or V90 card if you want to record, the high codecs, the 10-bit 422s and all the rest of it. Yeah, only the 1 card slot on the A6700, but it is side loading, which is a vast improvement on the A6600, which had the card slot in with the battery compartment. Also, the battery life on the Sony A6700 is fantastic. It uses the Z100 battery we're all pretty much familiar with. It's an excellent battery. You'll get plenty of life out of that for photographs and for video. The Panasonic is pretty decent. It uses a BLK22 Panasonic battery. That's a pretty decent battery, but not quite as good as what you get from the Sony A6700. The biggest advantage with the Sony A6700 for me is its size and weight. It's a lot more compact and it's a lot lighter. The Panasonic GH6 with its 12 to 35, the Panasonic 12 to 35 lens, is 1,170 grams. That's quite hefty for me to carry around all day, but it has got a built-in fan in the camera. You can see the grills down the side there where the fan is. So if you're a video producer and you're using it all day long, the GH6 is not going to overheat regardless of what codecs you're using to produce your video content. Where the 6700 has no fan, it will overheat. So if you're using this all day long for video, well, you're going to come in, you possibly are going to come into overheating issues. I, in fact, have not come into any overheating issues, but then I'm not doing long-term filming. I'm running the camera for 2 or 3 hours at a time when I do my YouTube content. So I'm not using it all day long. You might prefer the GH6. But I prefer the 6700 simply because of its weight. This is only 817 grams with the Sigma 18 to 50 lens fitted to it. So it's considerably lighter and it's just a lot more compact. The grip is great. It's a lovely grip on the 6700, a really nice light compact camera. The GH6 is a far more traditional camera. It's quite surprising because Micro Four Thirds I always thought was meant to be lighter camera bodies. They're not. They're as bulky, some of them are as bulky and heavy as even a full frame. I mean, this is a lot heavier and more bulky than the Sony A7C, which is a full frame camera that's getting this close-up shot. But the lenses are more compact and in most cases better value for money. The other thing that I do love about the GH6 though is the amount of function buttons and its versatility. I mean, you've got 2 function buttons on the front, just down by the side of the lens. You've got function buttons on the top for your white balance, ISO, exposure compensation. You can reassign them for whatever you want, to be fair. You've got function buttons down the side. You've got menu-driven function buttons on the screen. It is just a very, very functional camera from that point of view. And I love using it for its functionality, but I'm not keen on taking it around all day long because it gets, it gets quite heavy for me. Where the 6700 has got function buttons. It's got one on the side here where the video record button used to be. It's got a dedicated control dial here for going from photographs to video to quick and slow motion. I wish the GH6 had that. It hasn't. And some function buttons on the back. So it is, a nice functional camera. And at long last, Sony have put a command dial on the front of the camera, which they've never done before. So I think that is fantastic that they've put a command dial on the front of the camera there. I love its video codecs and video features, but the Panasonic does beat it from that point of view. So yeah, I think if you're into traveling and you want to take something light and compact, certainly if you're into vlogging, this is a much nicer vlogging camera because it's a lighter camera. The GH6 may be a better camera for video, provided you don't need the autofocus. Then the Sony A6700 is definitely going to be your better bet. But if you're the person behind the camera and you're out doing a lot of filming, the GH6 will be probably a better choice. It's got a whole range of codecs. As I said, it's got the open gate codec that the A6700 doesn't have, but it has also got, on the top here, you've got a function button. I mean, as I said earlier, there's a lot of function buttons on both cameras. You can pre-assign these function buttons for whatever you want to use them for, but on the top it has got a dedicated audio button on the top here, so you can push that button in and that brings up all your audio functions, so you can adjust your audio levels. You can see what your audio levels are doing. You can see what you've got it set to. I mean, that is fantastic on the GH6. On the Sony A6700, although there isn't a dedicated function button for audio, I've actually reassigned one of them for audio and I've put it on the top to match basically the GH6. So I've pre-assigned this button here, push that in, and that brings up my audio level controls, so I can set the audio levels on the Sony A6700 manually, or I can set it to automatic if I want to. So it's kind of very similar. Also, don't forget the 6700 is now a 10-bit 422 video camera, very similar to the GH6, but some people have found the 6700 does overheat, where I haven't found that. Maybe it's because of where I use it, maybe it's because of the temperatures in the country that I live. We live in the UK, I don't know. But GH6 won't overheat. As I said earlier, it has got a fan that stops it from overheating. It is a very, very good video camera, and with its open gate video recording, anamorphic mode, it makes a fantastic video camera. Both cameras have weather sealing, and that will depend on what lenses you're using as well. So I can't say one is better than the other as far as weather sealing is concerned. The range of lenses is extensive for both systems, whether you're looking at the Sony E-mount or whether you're looking at the Panasonic GH6. Now the GH6 uses micro four thirds lenses, so there's a massive range of lenses available from Panasonic, Olympus and third-party manufacturers. The same can be said for the Sony A6700. There's a lot of lenses available from Sigma, Tamron, Sony. You can also use the full frame lenses available for the Sony. Just bear in mind the crop factor, as it's an APS-C camera. If you're a hybrid shooter and you're taking photographs and video, then I think the A6700 is definitely the clear winner. It's great to handle, lovely grip, fantastic video quality because of its 10-bit 422 and because of its AI chip. It also does some clever video tricks as well. So it's got auto crop mode. So if you're using a wide angle lens, you can crop into the image as you film to make it look like you've got a camera operator behind the camera. So yeah, 6700 as a hybrid camera, I think is your choice. If video is your primary choice with some photography, I would say probably the GH6, to be fair. As long as you're not reliant on the autofocus and you're behind the camera, I think the GH6 is fantastic. I think the screen is a lot better, the viewfinder is a lot better on the GH6. I love the articulation of the screen on the GH6 with its 3-inch articulating screen, and the viewfinder is so much better on the GH6 as far as eye relief is concerned. And the image quality is fantastic, certainly for video, and with its open gate mode for video, I think as a video producer, you're going to get some awesome results with the GH6, and obviously with its redundancy as far as recording to 2 cards. You can actually output via USB-C to SSD drive as well, it's a hard disk, an SSD hard disk, and you know, that's an interesting feature. I have used it, but I don't use it long term because you can't record internally while you're outputting to an SSD. So I find that's a bit hopeless really, because there's no redundancy. But yeah, the GH6 fantastic video camera apart from its autofocus. So there we go. That's the 2 cameras. That's the 6700 and the Panasonic GH6. I hope you found that useful. I will leave links in the description below, as I said earlier. But if you do like this channel, please subscribe. I really would appreciate that. It helps me grow the channel. And if you do like the content of this video, please hit the like button. That would be also really, really helpful. So thanks very much for watching. Cheers for now. Bye.